welcome back to the Catalyst Effect Podcast, Episode 9. I'm Klaus, and with me, as always, is Crypto Hado and Missy. But today we have a super special guest, man. Someone that I personally consider a pioneer of the gaming space, a good friend in the space as well. My boy Brycent. What is up, my guy? How are you? How you been?
What's
Glad
up,
to
bro?
have you with us, man.
I'm good. I'm good. It feels good to be on. It's Sunday, so it's like my day where I'm mostly chilling, making content, and kind of getting prepared for the week. So it feels good to chat. I haven't been on a podcast in a minute. It's probably been like, damn, maybe a year since I've like done someone's podcast or like had a conversation like this. So it's cool to like jump back into it.
Dude, that's crazy. But well, thank you, man. We definitely appreciate you making the time and coming on the show. It's definitely an honor having you with us. And just like you mentioned, it's Sunday. I know it's Sunday night football, so I know my boy Hado is super fucking hype. Probably. What's up, brother?
We play at 3:25 Eastern, or
Oh,
sorry,
true.
4:25 Eastern. Playing the Giants. They're terrible, but so are we. So it can go either way, especially with the Cowboys. But yeah, I'm excited to watch that game. But yeah, I'm doing good. I'm chilling, man. I'm doing
Hell
good.
yeah, man. Hell yeah.
At least your team didn't give up 70 points.
Wait, dude, do you go? Are you a Dolphins fan?
No, I'm a Broncos fan, bro.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, dude,
Yeah.
the Dolphins are like
And
lost
that one
cause,
was Hey, we got the Chiefs. We beat the Chiefs like a week and a half ago. So I'm kind of riding a high. I'm thinking there's still some level of hope out there.
I think
Dude,
Russell Wilson has rug pulled the Broncos for the
Oh my
past
God.
2 years.
That man said he's gonna get his bag regardless. I ain't knocking a black man getting his bag. I think he's definitely ass. But hey, he's my ass quarterback. It is what it is. You know, I'm gonna love him either way. Until he's not the QB no more, I'm gonna love his gump ass.
dude, I have nothing to add to this conversation because I don't know anything about football. But I just like to tell people I'm a Patriots fan,
I
just to get
can't
them
wait.
all
I
riled
can't
up.
wait to get back to the States so I can watch some football, bro. It's these European hours are fucking terrible for football.
Hey, I
Yeah.
sent you a link that you can watch any game. By the way,
Oh, good
hush,
luck.
hush, hush,
Chill,
hush.
chill. Is that third party TV service? Let me get
No,
that.
that's it's YouTube TV. It's YouTube TV.
Okay. All right. What's the subscription cost?
Enough.
Like I said earlier, super nice to have Bryson on the show, man. Bryce, for the viewers and listeners that maybe haven't gotten to see your content or that don't know who you are, how do you describe to yourself today, man? Who are you today for that? For like a new listener, a new viewer, just discovering your content, what would you say to them as a creator? Who are you?
Yeah, I'm just primarily a Web3 gaming creator. The only games I really like to make content on are Web3 games because I think every other game is bad. Nah, I'm fucking with you. You know what I'm saying?
That was perfect.
Oh my goodness. No, I'm a gaming content creator. Like I consider myself more so like an entertainer more so than anything else. Like I think that there's like multiple different buckets you could probably put me in. But at the end of the day, I just like playing video games and making content and making people laugh. I think like that's my main like focus, make people laugh, have a good time, make it to where like you can relate to like what I do and like kind of make it to where it's like a family filled thing. But I'm not really that like my content isn't crazy family friendly because what I'm saying, I say nigga a lot and all that. So, just beware. But I like to have a good time. I'm a gaming content creator. Nigga beware. I'm a gaming content creator, bro. Like I'm very much a big believer in blockchain technology and video games, but I'm also a firm believer that like you got to build an audience and have a good time whatever you're playing or doing and keep the cringe fest shit to a minimum. So like that's like my mantra. And of course, my whole, you got to become the impossible. That's what keeps me going every day. But yeah, I just like playing video games.
Hell yeah, man. I love that answer. And I relate to it a lot, right? Like, I'm someone who I wouldn't say like I look for a lot of inspiration out of things that I do, right? So like when I consider content creation like an art, basically another form of art.
Facts.
And for example, I did photography for a long time. And when I started in that field, I looked at other photographers and inspirations of mine, like people that inspired me to do that job, and I studied their work and like just how they did everything, the things that they focus on, their composure for photos, and just like how they thought of things when they were looking at like a landscape or whatever the subject was, right. And that's kind of how I feel about your content, right? You're probably one of the first content creators I discovered when I got into web3 gaming, or just into this ecosystem of blockchain
Yeah.
technology, right? And dude, like from the very beginning I started studying your content and just the way you did things, and I think you've achieved a nice bridge between entertainment but also like storytelling, right, when it comes to content. And it's really cool seeing it blown up, and like you continuing to find new ways to like make it better, and like just find new ways to like entertain people, like you're saying, I think it's really cool.
I appreciate it. I think that like when I looked at the space, like at first when I came in, I was like, all right, I'm out here making content, et cetera, et cetera. But like as you spend more time like in the crypto gaming and Web3 space, like especially with where I was when I first got in, which was like I started off with Axie. Axie was like the main, like that game, like when I first joined it, there wasn't anybody making content on the internet really. You had like maybe one or two
Yeah.
people. There wasn't nobody talking about shit on Twitter. There wasn't nobody like putting content on Twitch and realizing the value of it. And I think like a lot of people in the early stages was like got to the point where they're like, oh my goodness, well, Bryce made Axie made Bryce, and after Axie, like he's not gonna have like another run or he's not gonna grow again and all this shit. And I was like, dude, you gotta realize when I first started making content, like my goals were very modest. Like I was a software engineer, I was already making really good money. And my thought was if I could stream to 10, 20 people on Twitch, like have my own little like small community, I was hyped. When I saw the numbers go, I was like, damn, like niggas is really out here watching this shit. So, I doubled down on it, but I also realized is like, your content creation, and a lot of people don't realize it. You're kind of like you're like a rapper where like you get one, like you gotta have to hits, you gotta have hit after hit after hit. But it's different because like a rapper, like it's very creative. Like, oh my God, I can go create hits here and there. Whereas like content, you're very much confined to what the game does and the structure of the game that you're playing and the updates and all this shit, things that are out of your control. And what I learned about Axie, especially during the bull run, because in 2021, yeah, this crazy bull run. I'm coming in as a dude, what I'm saying? I'm working a regular salary, still making a regular salary. And it's like, I don't have millions, I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars invested into crypto, but my content easily made a lot of people hundreds of thousands of dollars when tokens pumped as a byproduct of me making good, entertaining content and bringing people to the game. And what I realized, I was like, you know what? When tokens go down, it's like, okay, well, people be like, oh, well, it's a bear market. And I was like, damn, well, how do I become bear market proof? And that was like my main goal. Like, how do I actually make money? Like, because I didn't make any money my first year of content, really, like maybe like 20 racks in comparison to niggas that were like invested in the tokens and the game and like all this other stuff. They're making like millions. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get like y'all, but I can't really, really get like y'all because I can't shield tokens. I can't do things the same way because I see what that does. I see how you get in trouble doing that stuff. So it's like, that's not going to be my brand or presence, but I got to find a way to do it, making content while also making everybody else's day brighter. So I said, okay, well, if I'm going to be almost like, like if I'm going to be like bull market, bear market proof, I got to get to the point where like my audience and my distribution is big enough where you can actually play any game and do whatever you want. But I realized in doing that, it's like, yeah, you're going to like step out of certain communities and you're going to grow and like all these different things. And we could dive into it a ton, but a lot of it's just been experimenting. And like, that's kind of like what I want to like make the vision for a lot of people. Just experiment. If something don't work, okay, it didn't work. Mark off why it didn't work and keep moving on.
Hell yeah, dude, I love that. Go ahead, Missy.
To add to that, something I would say that I've watched during the bear market is like almost this path of self-discovery for you. You seem a lot more yourself, which is really cool to watch. I don't know you personally, but you just look more comfortable. That's the best way I could put it.
I feel
and
that.
for and for us, it's very similar in the sense that in the beginning we just started playing games, and now we're kind of happy to have some sort of community around it. It wasn't it wasn't something that we were sitting here trying to build like the org of the future or anything like that. But we've quickly matured in our experience and realized that we do have a community and people that want to do stuff with us. And something I would add is to the point that you made about driving liquidity. I think that's something that a lot of like Web3 content creators don't realize is that in a way you're kind of a market maker, right?
Oh, for sure.
You making a video and you deciding to endorse a product in Web3 actually leads to a lot of market activity, and you should treat yourself accordingly.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for example, like the whole spat yesterday with Yellow Panther and and what's
Yeah.
his name? Alex Becker.
Becker.
I don't
Yeah.
really know who the fuck Alex Becker is. Don't really care outside of the fact of like I've heard people like chirp about him making a ton of money and all this shit. I'm like, okay, cool. You're another face on the internet like everybody else. But he acts like, oh well, I'm telling people I didn't tell anyone to buy the tokens. I just said that it's gonna do a 15x. And I'm like, you're inadvertently telling people to buy tokens. It was like, that's your brand. Like, if like that's your thing, but stop acting like you're some like fucking like dude who's just on the internet, like, hey guys, this is just for informational purposes. And then I saw a post where AVAX like pumped and someone accused him of like, oh, well, your tweet helped pump AVAX. And he's like, how could my tweet like pump a $1 billion market cap coin? I'm like, dude, are we really going to be that dumb to like pretend like people don't buy based on other people saying things because they fear missing out on things? So it's like, I see like a ton of stuff where I'm just like, no, I'm not going to participate in that because then I can't work with like certain brands and do certain things. But to your point, Mizzy, I definitely think I feel like way more comfortable and like I found myself a lot more because like what a lot of people fail to realize about my journey and like building and creating things is like I was creating and like trying and failing and trying different things before I got into Web3. So like when I needed to transition and like be like, all right, we're ripping this Band-Aid off this play to earn bullshit. Like I don't believe in it anymore. I'm gonna come out and say I don't believe in it and do my own thing. I just ripped it off and kept doing what I normally do because it's like it's the action and the consistency more than it is like trying to please people, random ass people on the internet. I see people lying about me scamming projects, people dick riding and all this weird shit. And I just gotta sit there and I'm like, you know what, Bryce? Does this serve you? Does this serve your time and attention well to even like respond to like some lame ass allegations when all this shit is on the blockchain and people can like go and actually see what went down? Or should you just kind of like do your own thing and continue just like letting it rock because you live in people's head rent free and they got to pay rent every single month they tweet about you because you live in their head rent free? And that's like kind of how I carry it. It's like, dude, the same people who like try to like discredit me or like say shit, I walk into rooms with these people and see them at IRL events and they act like, I'm gonna be real, it's like straight up, they act like total bitches or they act like total like passives. Like for example, I was at 3XP. Nigga, I pulled up to the Ronin party and saw everybody and spoke to everybody. Then I see these same people get on the internet and try to tweet halfway sideways. I'm like, come on, bro. We know you're not like that. Axie hosted something a couple years back, the whole Kagi incident. Bro, you see me in person. You had Axie Lima over here brokering a conversation so you could apologize to me, but then you like get on the internet and make it seem like it's something that's not. And it's like, dude, you know where I'm at. You know where it is in person. I ain't gonna be on no, I'm gonna fight you shit. We're adults. But I'm also not gonna be on no, let's get on the internet and cause drama and go back and forth on Twitter. Cause it's like, dude, if you ain't worth the energy and time, why put my energy and time there when it's like people act completely different on the internet and I'm just going to be me because at the end of the day, that's the reason why I'm having my level of success in my own lane. I'm not trying to be the guy who's making token calls. Do I like degenning into tokens and shit on the low? Absolutely. I do that shit all the time, but I'm not going to be out like, oh man, like this is what this should be and this is what that should be. Is like, no, I'm gonna let y'all do that because at the end of the day, when it comes to actually playing a game and entertaining people, ain't nobody going to y'all to do that. They just gonna come find me, find other people that do the exact same thing. So it's like I see a ton of shit where I'm like, damn, I'd love to respond to this, but I'm not because it's not really worth the time and energy. And it sucks sometimes because you'll be sitting there like, damn, I really want to just call a nigga out or do some shit. And it's like,
Yeah.
Nah.
It's not worth it, man. It's not worth it because the internet is a monster that, like, I wouldn't say monster, a machine that moves on attention, right?
Oh, facts.
So, like what you're saying, right? Like, these people act so differently on the internet, and then you see them in IRL, and they're like trying to be all buddy buddy, or like nothing happened, or like it's all cool, and you're like, dude, like where was all that, all that talk that you were putting out, right? And then, like you said, it's not about like I'm gonna fight you, I'm looking to fight you, but it's like be real, be who you truly are. And to your point, I think the most successful content creators are those who are staying real to themselves, right? Like who are putting out content of like their true personality without any like apologetic, without being anything else, right? Like, so I think that holds a lot of value. It's just being true to yourself and making real content, bro. That's entertaining and that's it.
You're speaking facts, King. You're speaking facts.
What were you gonna say, Hado?
I was just say that like we're in a very clout chasing world type of environment, especially on Twitter. And now that you're monetizing all the attention with the ad revenue, once you get to that certain threshold where you can earn money, that's where all these people are coming from. It's like, we know that we can get Brycent to react a certain way. All those people are going to flood the comments, and then you're going to have a post blow up, and now you have more ad revenue. So it's kind of
That's
like,
true.
it's kind of what happened when Elon has enabled this kind of behavior on X. It's like everyone just clout chasing at the end of the day.
I mean, to be fair, X has always been like a toxic, like social media network. You know, I don't think I've ever seen Twitter.
Yeah, but now you're giving niggas money for it. It's different now.
That is true. That is true. Hey, but aside from all the drama that goes on Twitter, Bryce, you brought up something, right? Like your very beginning of finding out like Web3 gaming, right? Which you brought up, it was with Axie and all that
Yeah.
stuff. How did it feel? I want to get more into like, because you brought up the fact that when you found Axie, it was basically this empty ecosystem when it came to content creation, right? How did it feel to find at that stage of yourself being a content creator yourself, right? Because you were just, I believe you found it through an episode of Market Meditations, right? Like
Yeah,
the podcast.
yeah, for sure.
And you were just like fresh out of your other career, right? So it's not like you were, I mean, I don't know if you were creating content consistently back then at that
No, I had
time,
taken a
but
break completely. I wasn't making any gaming content at that point.
so can you talk a little bit about how did it feel as a like brand new content creator per se, right? To find an ecosystem that was completely empty of content. And do you think there's still opportunities now in Web3 to still find those empty ecosystem that you can use to optimize your brand or like scale it up quickly?
Oh, for sure. Like, so for me, it was kind of interesting because I was like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just sitting there going on Twitch trying to find a way to get it. I didn't even know what crypto gaming was. Like, I didn't know how to set up a wallet, any of this shit. So I was just like, all right, let me just try to figure it out. But like, once you realize, like, okay, and it's hard, it's kind of hard. Sometimes you stumble into things that are like, here's like your advantage. And once you find your vantage point, you can be like, okay, this is how I can add impact to like an ecosystem. But I was always a big gamer at the time, you know. So I was still a software engineer. I was doing pretty well, living at home. So I was like, you know what? I got some time. I got some spare time after I'm working to like just bullshit and like get back into gaming. And I was like, before that, I was like super like productivity minded. Like, oh my God, like how do I build companies and create all these like revenue streams and passive income? And I'm like, I got to the point where I was so tired of doing all that. I was like, the only thing I want to do is go to work. And then when I get off of work, go home and bullshit and play video games. And that's when I stumbled across Axie on the podcast. And I was like, all right, well, damn, this is so open. And it's called Pokemon that you can sell, Pokemon on the blockchain. I'm a huge Pokemon guy. So that's literally what drew me in and got me to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to like jump into it. But I think there are still a ton of ecosystems that are like completely underdeveloped today that you can do the exact same shit with. Like the sandbox, people are sleeping on the sandbox. I think like if you really wanted to, you could chart out 8 to 10 different niche gaming channels of content just playing the sandbox. Like legitimately, I don't think the games on there are that great or like the activations, like there are a couple. But I stumbled into like one the other day and it was like, I guess they were trying to make a horror game on the sandbox. And like that's when it hit me of like, damn, like this is actually like not a bad format. Like you could actually, if they keep growing and you're someone who's like incorporating this into a niche like environment of like, you'll see, I'm gonna talk about it in a little bit about what I'm gonna do in like building a second YouTube channel. But you can incorporate it like a niche world where you're playing like a certain style of game and you incorporate Web3 games that like follow a similar like format or trade. I think what a lot of people fail to realize though is like with these different communities, there's also the applicability for a more general scale community to be on top, layered on top of it. So like ecosystems that I think are undervalued. The shrapnel, dead drop ecosystem, the FPS game ecosystem is super undervalued. Well, there's no real games yet, so it's like no one's really discovering or looking for the discoverability of those games. So if you jump in them, like that's the one issue you have to jump into. But I think there's going to be a ton of people who pop off just playing like FPSs and designing skins and all these different things. And then I also look on like the completely other side of the coin where it's like an Ali Strauss is really like crushing it, which is like parallel card game. Like she basically is like the person for the parallel card game ecosystem. And she was playing like Hearthstone and stuff. So she now has like the Web 2 side and the Web 3 side and is like blended together into like this perfect bowl. And like when I think about like what the real gaming content creators that are going to get it right, they're going to fit somewhere in the middle. And of course, they're going to make their money. Like they're going to partner with games. They're going to get paid in tokens a little bit every now and then. But you're going to be like making content on games and things that you like doing. And for me, is like, I want to be somewhere where I'm finding the different niche moments and games that are interested for me to play, but I'm going to like stick with my guns and believing that like going super hard on a Web 2 game and in implementing Web 3 gaming content on top of it is the way to be. So I would say like if you really wanted to dive in and like start a channel and some stuff, I think that going deep on a certain niche style of game or certain ecosystem style is a better move than trying to be like super expanded everywhere. Like now that I'm doing Counter-Strike content, I'm like, okay, well, my audience really loves skins. So that means like 70, 80% of the time I need to be playing Counter-Strike. The other 20%, I can work on thinking about different games and different like things to test out. But you don't want that to be your main thing, because if you're just testing everywhere, you're not going to get to a point where you build up enough deeply embedded audience for when there is a big blockchain game. They're not going to truly believe in you because you're not going to have built up the credibility with them to make it worth their time to also jump into another game. So I think that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to building niche audiences, your Web3 gaming strategy should have a reflective Web2 gaming strategy alongside it. And you can go like down the road of being like super deep in the tokens and like making that your alpha or content. But then you're also going to have to understand that your ability to like build an audience is going to be very predicated on if markets are good or bad. I want to be market proof. And I think that any content creator that really wants a long future in the like creating entertaining gaming content or whatever the case may be, you want to kind of build out a way to become market proof, because that's ultimately like what you're looking for. So dude, I would even say this, like, I think if the right person, and if you like playing that style of like cringe filled game, I think the right person could go into the Ronin network and clean the fuck up, because none of their content creators really do it well, to be real. Like they're okay, but they're not like crushing it. But you kind of need to fall in line with this pixelated, like Southeast Asian indie style of gameplay. And if you really dive deep on that, find the Web 2 games that are very similar to like the Stardew Valleys and the pixelated versions. You could create an entire brand in the Ronin ecosystem doing the exact same thing, and you would absolutely crush it. But again,
Yeah.
like you got to kind of like think deeply around like the creative aspect. Like you think of like pinpointing the different ways that all these things connect. I try to create triangles, and then the one triangle is like, this is the main game, this is where I am in the middle, and how do I make every piece of the triangle have some sort of like symbolism or positive impact on each other. If I'm playing Counter-Strike, how do I get the Counter-Strike niche to impact my ability to work with different games in Web3 and then add value back there? And if I'm playing Web3, how do I make money in Web3 and use that to positively impact my community so I can make better Counter-Strike content? Because then you start to really like scale forward in a way that's like everything is kind of working in a system. And even though outsiders may not see the vision, you're constantly growing and checking off different boxes because you have kind of like a focused goal and approach of what you're trying to actually accomplish with a piece of content or with your overall content outlook. And sorry, because I know that was a bit long winded.
No, no, not at all, dude. That was a W answer, and you said a lot of things that make sense to me and that I relate to. One of the things that you said, right, and I think is something that I'm currently struggling with, right, and it's like what you mentioned of finding the right strategy of having something that is Web 2 aligned, but also that connects to your Web 3 strategy, right? Like what you mentioned, like you have your community that enjoys watching you open like skins on CS:GO, right? So you make
Yeah.
CS:GO your main game right now, but then you're also known for like storytelling and testing out new games and indie games and all that stuff. So you can do with like your leftover time, you can go ahead and dedicate it to that and like explore new games in Web 3 or whatever, and you still have your community that enjoys that content. For me, I've been struggling because I'm an FPS player, right? Like that is
Yeah.
my main, and that's all I enjoy, and I've been craving that in Web 3 for so fucking long. And I thought I had it with that drop, and then optimizing issues
Man,
happen, fucking
that
lobbies were
game.
dead, which I want to pick your brain before we move on from here. But obviously with the new dead drop, the new snapshot coming out, and people not being too happy about it, basically, when I say people, mainly the Web 3 folks, right? Like the ones that have been playing all the other snapshots and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
we'll get to that in a second. But for me, like I thought I had it with dead drop, right? And that wasn't it. And then there wasn't really any other Web 3 FPS game that has come out that has caught my attention with movement
Facts.
mechanics, just overall structure, right? That feels good. I'm hoping Shrapnel is the next one that's going to do that for me. But I've been stuck because I've been kind of forced to. Okay, I have CS:GO 2. I like it. I play it. I suck at it. I'm trying to get better, but I have like a content piece for it, right? That I can make out of it. Like I have a series of me basically trying to get better within 100 hours. So I
Yeah.
have something to make content out of, which I enjoy. Then I have Farlight 84, which is a game that I like to grind out and be competitive in. But then I'm missing that connection to Web 3, where I
Yeah.
don't have anything where I'm like, what do I play in the Web 3 side that I can make that type of content as well? And I'm forced to play all these other styles of games that I'm not really, I guess, not really into. So in the type of person that I am, then that affects the content that I produce, right? Because I'm not really 100% committed to it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, like, how do you think that hurts the creative process a lot for creators? Like, do you think creators nowadays have to make the choice that they make for games that they play based around the content that they can make around that game, or do they still have the choice to say, nah, fuck that, I enjoy playing Fortnite, so I'm just gonna play Fortnite whether people want to see it or not, you know? And that's what I'm gonna make content around.
So it's interesting because I think like with where content is, it's to your point, like kind of crappy. Like you're kind of put in a bad spot where like, oh my God, like how do I like build this new audience while also like continuing to grow? And it's tough because to your point, like I'm big on FPS too. Like that is my main before I got into Web3, that was like my main genre. And it got to the point where it's like, oh man, all the like the good FPS stuff doesn't really exist. So like what I like would say is that a lot of times you are actually in a very bad position as a content creator in Web3 because I was also trying to play that job. I was running tournaments and I got realized, yo, this shit ain't like, it just ain't it. Like they're not really working with me, like me being someone who's trying to build in their community. They're not really giving me like tons of opportunities and like supporting the shit I'm doing. So I was like, why should I sit here? I literally told myself and like, I was like, why should I sit here and make content on a game that isn't like serving me at this early stage when I'm putting in tons of stream hours? I watched Cairo do the same thing and like it's just not there yet. So
Yeah, very little engagement from like a community to developing standpoint.
yeah. So like from my perspective, you do have to just get to a point where it's like you have to look at Web3 and Web2 in certain bubbles. Like I think my truest community and like fan base is going to come from Web2. I think people in Web3 will be supportive because I'll be playing Web3 games every now and then. But like I think the biggest issue you run into is trying to please Web3 when your biggest opportunity still, like in my opinion, resides in Web2. You can do everything in Web3 while also playing Web2 games and mixing both, and it won't affect your bottom line negatively because as soon as a game comes out, they're gonna be like, oh shit, this guy has 20,000 followers on YouTube. We need to work with him. He's actually not opposed to playing Web3 games. And that's why I tell people it's like being a hybrid is actually better because all these people who talk about like, oh man, when the bull market comes back, like the games are gonna work with us, dude. You got it. You get 1,000 views, you get 10,000 views a month on your content because you don't have anyone watching you, brother. I can promise you, they're going to just go and get other people. Like when Blancos was trying to get, I think it was Ludwig and some other people to play at one point for like their Creator Cup tournament or something. It's like they don't need Web3 people. They just need enough educated Web2 people that actually are willing to like take the stab and stand on business, as Drewski would put it. And you know, the first person to do that was Dr. Disrespect when he like said, okay, I'm doing this game. But it's like there's gonna be more Web2 people that eventually be like, you know what? I'm gonna make this bag. So you're like one of the things I really want to do with like a company is be like, yo, give me 2 racks and let's promote your fucking your product or your game by doing a case opening in Counter-Strike and making it to where if people sign up for your early access demo or something, they can potentially win whatever I open in the case. I don't need to keep anything from the case. But if I say, hey, we're opening 100 cases, and anybody who signs up for this demo or this game that's sponsoring the video is going to have a chance to win every skin that I pull in these cases, what the hell you think is going to happen? Those people are going to sign up. And those same gamers that have like 10 or 20% of their time where they're like 80% I play my main game, 20% I play a side game, you're going to potentially have them to at minimum check out your game. And it's like, that's such a non-invasive, non-scammy way to bring people into a game and offer like a really sick prize or thing. And it's like games don't realize that your true creative like power is finding ways to integrate with games that already exist because those audiences are going to be intrigued by the fact that you're giving them something in the game that they already play. So like when I think about like what the true integration is, I'm like, yo, all I need to do is keep growing the right way, building the right audience, and then being able to take my insights and say, okay, I have 500 people who watch my stream concurrently. I'm hypothetically speaking. 500 people who like FPS games that watch my stream concurrently. Oh, you're dropping your game. Let's work on a partnership. I mean, if they're going to work with somebody that is Web3 positive and Web2, you think they're going to pick me or the guy who's been talking about their token going up for 6 weeks to people who don't actually game? It's like the competition level is so fucking low. If you do both, you grow 10 times larger than the same people who are sitting here trying to bash you for only doing one or the other. Guess what? Those same people are still going to always be doing that. I don't give a fuck. Like, so I think like what you have to do is truly be like, you know what? Let me just try to build some sort of audience that like I can integrate with Web3 when the time comes. and be very open and honest. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, yeah, I'm a big crypto maxi. I believe in it. It's one of my main forms of payment. And I do this on stream. No one in my chat complains about me being crypto native or believing in crypto or all this shit. They just like, oh shit, we rock it. And that's how it should be most of the time.
Hell yeah, dude. Because at the end of the day, the people that log in every day to watch you, they're there for like the entertainment that you bring, right? Like the entertainment value that you bring and the connections
Facts.
you build, the fandom that you've built with your community, right? Like that whole like every time I go into one of your streams, right? Like you see it immediately as soon as you start, even before you start, people are already chatting and saying hello, and it's like a whole vibe going on, right? So like
Yeah.
that's the whole like sentiment that you've built with your community, which is really awesome. And I agree with you 100%. I think every creator should be like hybrid, and content should just be content. And at the end of the day, as creators, it's our job to bring the most entertainment value to our audience as much as possible, right? So do you guys think that when you're hybrid, like Brycent is saying, right, you get to build a community, and you get a targeted audience that gets content more than Web3 native people do? Because I feel like sometimes Web3 communities, or like when you just build specifically to a Web3 targeted audience, they crave a very specific type of content. And if you don't deliver that type of content all the time, it's like they don't
It's you need to
care,
be
you
making
know?
me money or talking about my game. And
Yes.
like, bro,
Yeah.
people don't realize that. It's like, dude, no one, I can promise you 99% of the people who watch Web3 gaming content do not care about your brand or what you're doing. They mostly care about, are you talking about my game or my token? I'll be like, yo, send me some games to play. Nigga, half the games I get sent, them joints look like if they didn't even belong on the Dreamcast. And I'm like, brother, man, I can promise you, Zen Speed token for the fucking racing game where you walk around and the racing game looks like just the chassis is what's racing is not going up in value, brother. So no, you are
Yeah,
my
dude.
target audience.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
To add to what you guys are saying, I'm gonna actually go back a little bit because I think Bryson said something very important that I've personally been resonating as we've gone through this journey. You know, out of everyone in this group, I never really intended to be a content creator. It kind of just happened, right?
Yeah.
And I started creating content earlier this year. And something I learned very quickly is like niche is super important. Like I know my two genres, that's MMO and that's FPS. That's all I really care about. I'm never going to pretend to be into anything else. And you know, with FPS, that also comes with like third person shooters like Farlight. And with our squad,
Yeah.
we created like a whole Farlight wave on Twitter. Like, yeah, we're not big on Twitch or on YouTube, but we created like a whole Farlight wave on Twitter, and that's a Web 2 game. And people kept asking us like, "Why are you playing this game?" We're like, "Because it's not ass, bro. Like,
Yeah.
it's really that simple." And then we have people criticizing this game, and I'm like, "Name me one Web 3 title that plays even half this good, and
Bro.
I'll give you my wallet right now." Like,
And they probably were
um,
just silent.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's something where we just try to have fun. And you're absolutely right. If you focus on Web 3 stuff only, they're not really going to give a shit about you at the end of the day. I don't feel like our brand really took off, and I don't even consider it taken off yet, but it's starting to. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think people really started caring about it until we brought the Web 2 gaming aspect of it, where it was like we're no longer playing this one game, and all the people, because we started off our guild playing Magicraft.
Yeah.
And all the people that joined our guild playing Magicraft literally dipped as soon as we stopped talking about it. So we
Mm-hmm.
learned very quickly, like all those people abandoned. They didn't give a fuck once we weren't talking about Magicraft. And even when we played Magicraft, we didn't talk about the token because their whole like economy is dog shit. So
Yeah.
you know, so we were like, we're not gonna talk about that because we're gonna look like fucking idiots. We're just gonna play the game. And once we were like, all right, like this dev team sucks, we moved on from it. The whole community we attracted from that dipped anyways.
Yeah.
Then we played GSU, same thing, right? GSU was the game that was supposed to save fucking Web 3 gaming, and I'm a MMO guy, so
Yeah.
that's my two loves have always been MMO and shooters. So I'm like, yeah, this is a fucking game. I'm gonna start building my
Uh-huh.
brand around. I'm fucking lit,
You
right?
hype.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm back.
Yeah, exactly. And we have this whole moment, like YP, invites his whole crew. They start gaming with us in the Discord. Like we're popping off. Fucking everybody's living in that bitch for fucking 24/7, 2 weeks.
Just
GSU
vibing.
ends. yeah, GSU ends, and then we're like, all right, now what? Like that sucked because like now we don't have any momentum, and
Mhm.
we had all been resting our laurels on waiting for that shit to come back, and now we know what happened, right? Like it's not coming back.
Yeah.
So in between that, we started playing Firelight because we're like, fuck this shit, bro. Every time we get some momentum in Web
It
three, like we get rugged
just
one
goes
way or
away,
the other.
bro.
Yeah.
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 So now we realize that people are starting to care more about the brand and what we stand for than necessarily even the games that we play
Yeah.
because but that didn't happen until we pivoted to Web 2 and now include Web 3 stuff in what we do and we have a really strong Web 3 like guild member system,
Yeah.
but ultimately we're doing things very different compared to the traditional guilds where we're more gameplay focused, we're more about having fun, we're more about creating skits. But yeah, I really wanted to highlight that niche aspect because I think a lot of people in this space just call it Web3 gaming, and it's like, bro, there's like fucking how many genres inside of gaming? Like, why do
Bro.
we generalize game Web3
All the
gaming?
games
Like,
under one umbrella. And
it's
it's
so
like,
fucking stupid. Like,
oh,
we
I'm a
say
Web3
here,
gamer. So you play. So what do you play? Oh, I play pretty much any game that has blockchain. And so you're not building an audience for anybody. You're building an
Yeah.
audience just for like, and yeah, you can be generalized, but it's like, how many people are Jake Lucky where you could just tweet about games and like at a high scale and not play any and actually like have an audience? It's not
yeah,
as easy.
exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
And even
not.
him, he started with COD. He was only talking about COD drama and then was able to expand. And like
Yeah.
the test of time has never changed, where it's like you kind of start with a niche and you can expand as you grow and grow out. But if you don't get super niche, I mean, unless you are friends with a crazy big streamer or somebody who can just put you on, it's not just like, oh, just jump out and play everything. It's like, dude, you'll just keep going around in circles, game to game, and like make no real progress.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I see a lot of people in like the same servers when it's different games in Web3. All these people hop from one game to the other. So the audience will funnel from one game to the next game. And it's usually centered around a mint or a token raising in
Yes.
price. So it's like people are funneling from one place to the other. And the thing with Catalyst is like we've kind of found a way to like make everyone just appreciate the brand instead of funneling from one spot to the other. Sorry, Amelia, to cut you off.
nah, man, you're all good, bro. I mean, say if you want to keep going, go for it, man. You've been
No, that was
quiet.
it. That was it.
Okay. But nah, seriously though, it's crazy to me just seeing how immature the space is when it comes to genres and understanding how games work. That's why I question whether a lot of these motherfuckers are actually gamers. Because I'm like, bro, I'm everybody when Parallel came out, they're like, yo, you're gonna start creating content around Parallel. Bro, you couldn't pay me to create content about Parallel. I'm not fucking playing a trading
Bro.
card game. Like
I feel you. I actually thought it was a pretty fun trading card game, but it's not something I'm making
It's
content on. Like I
it's
tell
not
people,
the
it's
type
like,
of it's not the type of trading card I enjoy, bro. If I want to play a trading card, I need like some fire ass designs. It needs to be
yeah,
colorful. It needs to grab my attention and keep me in. They made it too obscure and too like dark.
yeah.
So for me
It's very
personally, it
dark and
lost me
like
like with the lore. It wasn't like I don't know. It wasn't like
I feel
grabbing
you.
enough for me.
yeah,
So I was like,
Yeah,
eh.
go ahead.
and that's no offense to the Parallel team. Like we hosted a tournament that you were kind of supposed to be a part of, but that
Yeah,
shit
we
fell
tried to
apart.
play the game and we ran
Yeah,
into an issue, and it was just
yeah.
like, damn.
So over at Paladins, because I'm a co-founder there as well. We tried creating like a moment around it, and it was cool. There were still some issues, but it was very I personally don't like the game to play it often. Like I'll fuck around and find out every now and then, but everybody as soon as the next big title comes out, that's what everybody's
Bro, that's
focusing
why
on.
you hear everybody talk about Shrapnel. It's like you got
Yeah.
niggas that ain't never played an FPS talking about Shrapnel's launch and all this. I'm like, bro, give me a break. So you're telling me the same, and then I see games. This is what games will do. For example, like the Pixels game. I see people talk about daily active wallets and users. I'm like, so you're just compiling all the former Axie scholars who are now grinding pixels for a whitelist mint. And then you got probably 20 content creators who are also talking about it because they're also trying to get the mint or the tokens or whatever else is there. It's like, I guess if that's what you want to call it, but like it ain't really a flex on anything or anyone. And then the rest of the stuff is like, oh, like you were saying, Hado, like, oh man, this new game has a mint coming out. How many of the same content creators will just go talking about mint after mint? That's why you see, bro, I don't be talking about any of them shits no more. Like,
Like
and there's
Rec
nothing
League,
against
dude.
them. And it's nothing against the games. like nothing against any of it, but I see so many people just talking about the same shit. I'm like,
Dude,
15 posts? You don't need my post. I don't need to talk about it. Y'all niggas talk about it. If I play it, it's because I actually like it.
Dude,
Bro, and
I was literally just talking. I was filming with one of our guild members, Beanie Eth. I don't know if you know him, Bryce, but he's a guild member, super big into big time and stuff like that. But I was just
Yeah.
recording with him earlier today in the morning on this new show that we're putting out, and I was literally telling him, I'm like, bro, we literally went from talking about big time and shrapnel as a yo, like these games are making dope ass updates, and we're so hyped to playing this game that's coming out that's dope as fuck, to like, yo, so how are the tokens doing? That's how quickly we shifted. Like all I've heard from now about shrapnel and big time has been literally token talk, bro. I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
I don't care.
Bro,
I just want to play the games and make content
I
around it.
hear
I don't
niggas talking
care how
about
the
it's game
tokens are
of the
doing, dude.
year. They be like, it's game, the token went up 20%. This shit's gotta be game of the year. I'm like,
The game is
nigga.
early release, bro. What do you mean game of the year? Like,
Bro,
what
I
the
was like,
fuck?
the last time I played big time, I stopped playing because you literally just go into dungeons and do the same shit
Oh,
over
yeah.
and over again. And then it was like, I come back, I see these people talking about how crazy the game is. It's the same game. I'm like, what? What changed? The
It is.
token?
It literally
Yeah,
is the same
Like
game.
you
And that's
can't
why
even
when we started playing,
you can't even play big time anymore because you just glitch everywhere, bro. I can't play the game because every time I go from a dungeon, go back to the game, I'm glitching everywhere. I can't jump anywhere. I can't walk anywhere. It resets my
Bro.
position every 5 seconds. It's
Bro.
broken.
at the end of the day, like people talk about it all the time too. Like now I've seen like people in Web3 saying like, nah, we don't want Web2 gamers to come over to Web3. You know, like keep those type of gamers over there.
Dude, just
Like fuck the mass adoption. You know, like we got enough people here in our space. But yeah, you get into any game in Web3 and you can fucking find like 3 people to play with. You know, like
There's way more games than gamers.
well,
Bro,
dude,
it's
it's
crazy.
just crazy to say something like that, you know, and especially when you have seen most of the games in Web3 already taking the approach of onboarding in a way that is very Web2 gear, you know, like they took away all the wallet integration shit, right? Like we don't see any game come out now saying like you need a wallet to sign in, you know. Now it's just like
facts.
sign in with email, sign in with wallet, sign in with whatever the hell you need to, you know, as long as you get in the game, we don't care, you know. So I don't get that whole mentality from creators in the space or just Web3 people in general of like saying like we don't need Web2 gamers to come over to our side and play our games. That's ridiculous. We absolutely need gamers to come to our side. And I think, what do you think, Bryce, about a game like Shrapnel, right? That has taken the
Yeah.
approach with their extraction packs and just kind of giving them out there, getting it into as many people's hand as possible to get like as many gamers as possible when they release in December. Do you think that's a good strategy, or do you think it's very similar to what happened with Dead Drop and it's not going to be that
I think
effective?
they're gonna release something that's way more polished than Dead Drop. I think Dead Drop was cool, and I think it still is. Like I thought the concept of like snapshots was really nice. Like I think people like that progression and being able to get involved at different stages. But I think the problem you have with the snapshots is, of course, like once people start like staking a claim and thinking like, okay, like this could be the future. It's like snapshots kind of dangle that in front of you, but the game is still so far away from being ready. I think Shrapnel is going to give a more enhanced gaming experience. I don't know if it's going to be that great to watch from a stream perspective. So it'll be very interesting to see like if everything is working, like the ability to go in and like actually like, you know, extract skins, lose skins, all that. Like that's the jazz I care most about, to see if that like if it's working. But I think they're going to release a better finished product. I'm not really like huge on the Battlefield style like shooters where it's like the game's more slow paced, because I'm like a very
Realistic,
like
yeah.
like my mind is like very quick. But the one time I played Shrapnel, we played very well at consensus. So it'll be interesting to see like what it looks like once they actually get the full game out there. But I do think the extraction packs are a great idea. I just think they need to go about getting them in the hands of Web 2 people more than Web 3. Like I think that's their biggest issue is like thinking that there's this huge Web 3 only gaming FPS scene when it's like it's very small and very condensed. Most of them are already playing Dead Drop. So it's like reaching out and working and collaborating, I think, is like the biggest thing. But their social team is doing a great job, I would say, in like trying to get people involved and putting their faces out there. I just think that personally, I don't see the need in having a token before the game is actually launched personally, but that's just my thoughts. Like I think you launch it with the game and see what happens, but like launching it prematurely just kind of doesn't really do it for me.
I
Yeah, I
couldn't
agree
agree
with
more on that. Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead, Clouds. Go
No, I was
ahead.
just gonna say exactly the same thing. I agree with that take 100%. To me, I think they should have doubled down and continue hyping the release of the game
Yeah.
for like what it was, like the gameplay itself. And like Bryce is saying, like try to partner with some big like content creators in the web 2 side that are into FPS, like the Tim the Tapman, the Scumps, the all those people that would have like maybe it's very similar. I don't know if you guys remember X Defiant, but when X
Yeah.
Defiant entered, like somehow everybody in Web3 knew about it, but so did everyone in Web2. Like
Facts.
you had all the cut players playing X Defiant because obviously they had someone like Aches working closely with the developing side, so he got everyone from the COD community to play it. But at the same time, we were playing it. I remember Bryce played it, I played it, Cairo was playing it.
Yeah.
Everyone in our space was playing it. So I think that was a really good approach, and I agree with you, Bryce. I think that's something that Shrapnel is missing, and hopefully they attack it before or after the early release, one of the two.
And I
And
think it's missing, like the token itself is missing liquidity, right? I think once we have a marketplace out, we have more things to spend the token on. Like it made more sense
facts.
for the token to come out. So I do agree that it came out super early, and it's just like out of nowhere, like, hey, we partner with this, partner with that, partner with this. It's like, where
Yeah.
did this come from? You guys were talking about the game for so long, and out of nowhere, you shift gears to like a token. And it's like, well, we have no liquidity for the token now. So now it's a speculation token until we have some
Yeah.
liquidity. And so, like Bryson was saying earlier, like game of the year, right? It's up 55% today. Game of the year. It may be a bunch of money. Cool. Is it going to continue to sustain price, and how will it sustain price? That's what I'm concerned about with token. And the game's not out
Yeah.
fully. They're throwing extractor packs everywhere, and I have a little bit of beef with how they're doing it because they offered it $20, $40 or $50 and $100. So now those people that spent the money to get the extractor
Mm.
packs, now they see all these giveaways going on. They're handling it in DMs. I don't know what's going on there, but I just think it's kind of confusing marketing message for some people.
So
I agree with that.
what I have heard on how they're handling it, and I'll reiterate on my part in a minute, but I've heard they're giving those people Shrap token if you like DM them and complain, basically. But you still have like DM the token.
Really?
Yeah, they're giving
Oh
them
my
some Shrap
gosh.
token, so it's like I guess that's cool, but it's also like a little weird.
Yeah, it is kind of weird.
Um, and for me personally, we had done you know, we've done a podcast with Shrapnel. We've had them on Boss Battle. It's a game that we're pretty bullish on. But it was a little confusing to then see right after we did all the stuff that we did with them. Like we had no idea the token was coming out. It wasn't something that had been really communicated. And then all of a sudden they're just like talking about the token. They're doing all these announcements. It was a little confusing for me personally.
Yeah,
So I kind of took a step back and was like, all right, like let me evaluate the situation for what it is, because I don't want people thinking I'm doing some weirdo insider shit. Because
for sure.
let's call it for what it is. I had no fucking clue. I'm in a group chat with the team, and I was like, "What's whoa? What's this?"
Yeah,
So I decided to personally distance myself a little bit and just evaluate the situation.
I
Obviously, I'm
feel
still
that.
very excited about the game, but it was just I didn't think that was completely necessary. Like you're very close to launching the game. I don't know if it was something that the investors required them to do or anything like that, but it seemed to really contradict a lot of the things that they've been saying, which was a little upsetting. But
I
yeah,
feel like there was some sort of investor, definitely some sort of investor presence that forced the token to be out sooner. Maybe they had like certain agreements in their investor docs that said like, hey, we have to launch a token by this point to have, make sure there are no token lockups or certain like there's obviously more at play than what we know, but I think it
absolutely.
has something to do with investors for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a case of like making somebody happy type of thing, and like it could be an investor, it can be like some type of like agreement they had, like Bryce is saying. So
Yeah.
like who knows, like that's behind the doors type of stuff. We'll never really get into that, or knowing what happened there. But I do agree. I think one of the things that I guess puts them at an advantage is the fact that they have a lot of plan for UGC in their game, and basically you're going to need the tokens to do any of that. Like
Yeah,
basically everything you do with UGC is going to be surrounding the token, so I think that's a good way to like build liquidity around the token. But I agree with you guys, I don't think it's something they should have released before, like, the game was out. So, but transitioning a little bit from that point, right? I wanted to get a little bit into community building and rewarding our communities, right? Because I think
Yeah.
something that our brand share, right, between Catalyst and your brand, Bryce, is the fact that I think we're both really focused on creating culture surrounding gaming, right, and just like lifestyle culture in general, and building that fandom within the community, right? And one of the things that I've noticed, Bryce, being a member of your community and watching you on stream and stuff like that, is that you incorporated like the use of po-ups and just like badges and stuff like that in your streams, where your community can mint this free NFTs and be rewarded that way, and you do a bunch of giveaways through them, and just a bunch of these cool integrations that makes the community feel a lot more engaged. Can you talk a little bit about that process? What is your belief through that? How do you believe that empower your community? Like, what does that do for your brand, basically?
Yeah, I think like the community, like community rewarding is interesting because there's tons of ways to do it. I like to like I've changed it up now a little bit because the po-ops, they were cool but a bit cumbersome when it came to like actually like using them to optimize things. But I think that like especially in Web3, the ability to have badges and like find ways to like show that people are consistently showing up and like where the value is in that, it's super important because a lot of the people in your community, like they want to be known as OGs as you grow and blow up and reach new audiences. So from my perspective, a lot of what I do is trying to like make sure I can like find ways to reward them for being a part of the community in the early stages, excuse me. So I think that like it's going to be a thing that's like more prevalent in the future, but it also is very predicated on how much you're growing. Like I think if you're doing, multi-million revenue a year, you can say, okay, well, now that now I have all these OG badges, like you can get access to certain events, certain free merch, certain different things as a byproduct of you being a part of a given community. So I personally am like a big fan of community rewards being like a way to better connect with your audiences because I think that ultimately, especially on chain, if there is a world where like it gets to a point like Steam where like there's some sort of system where like those on-chain badges actually matter. Like right now they only matter in the context of my community. But imagine if you could like display them on like a Steam profile or something, like how you like people currently like they'll trick out their Steam profiles and do dope shit. My whole thought process is like, man, like that would be pretty cool. Like people having like these loyalty badges and being able to show them, but also being able to get certain rewards as a byproduct of them. Maybe one of them is like one day you get to fly out and hang out with me in Miami and come on the stream. Like who knows what it is, but I think that they're like a good way to get your audience involved. But I think that to get to the point where they actually matter, you definitely you have to like make them very limited, one, and then very and two, like separate them, make them like hard to obtain, or make them like a thing where it's like, okay, you showed up this week, but like you need a certain amount of hours, then you can claim it. Like I've been kind of thinking about more about how do I like get sweat equity in exchange for the actual, POAPs badges and channel points and other things that we do. So I think those are some things to take into account.
Hell yeah, dude. I love that you brought that up because that's something that we've been trying to achieve as well with our product, right? Like we're very focused, like I said, of empowering our community and rewarding them through experiences. So
Yeah.
like something Missy can talk a lot more about this because he worked on it a lot more than I did. But we just released our Substack, our newsletters, a couple of days ago. And we released it in a form of a magazine type of collectible, right? So we
Yeah.
wanted to build this whole fandom around it and make it like a limited quantity thing where people can read a free Substack, get access to the information for free. But if they want to be a little bit more involved in the community and building that, like you're saying, growing with that product, right, and being a
Yeah.
part of it, they can now collect the issue of the magazine, like a comic book type of thing, right? And it's a collectible, it's an NFT collectible that's completely free on AVAX, and it's going to be on change, and
That's
people can
cool.
trade it eventually. But I think it's building that scarcity that you're talking about, right, where it's like very limited. You have to show up. So basically, like, let's say the first issue is minted out completely. If you didn't
Yeah.
show up within that quantity of the first issue, you're never gonna have it. You have to find it in secondary. Hopefully somebody's like selling it or something like that. But I think it is building that fandom of like, damn, I missed issue one of the OG magazine, but I really love this
Yeah.
product. Now I'm gonna make sure I'm on every issue, and I'm collecting this thing every time it comes. So I think it's pretty cool. But Missy, can you drop a little bit more information on that feeling of creating fandom
Yeah,
through those type of product?
it was something I made because my biggest criticism in this space is no one's doing cool shit,
Yeah.
and I don't mean that. And I obviously now I'm talking
You
about
mean you
you.
speaking facts, like
Yeah,
in
like
general, like
yeah. You're I would say you're one of our bigger inspirations where we look at what you're doing, and we try to obviously do things different. We don't want to be like a copy, but it's just nice to see somebody else is kind of doing things the right way and using that as a reference point on doing our own thing. And something that I always did as a kid is I always collected Game Informers, right?
Yeah,
I either
those are
collected
cool.
them or I would steal the cheat codes and write it in my journal.
Mhm.
Um, so because I wanted the cheat codes to the games that I played and shit like that. So I was thinking about kids, and I was like, "Yo, if a kid were to get into Web3, this shit is whack as fuck. Like, what are they gonna look
Facts.
at?" And I look at Catalyst as, yeah, we're gonna play Web2 games and try to bridge people over, but I see a lot of our contributions being something that helps with retention, right? Like,
Yeah,
let's
I
create
like
the
that.
culture that people want to stick around and enjoy. And we're experiencing different ways to do that. And one of the earliest ways that I felt was just easy to kind of get practice with was this Substack. And I know like kids aren't going to
Yeah,
look up a Substack, which is why I think it's a very early concept that needs to be improved on. But let me turn around and create this magazine with the homie Addis. He was the one that wrote it, and I did all the art with my brother. He did the front cover, and I
yeah,
did like the art in between the pages. And let's do something where people can scroll to the bottom of the Substack and scan a QR code or click the link and actually collect this thing. And they can collect the GIF, and it's like a collectible experience that they had. And as we continue to create new versions of the magazine and issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, find different ways to make it cooler, find different ways to make it more interactive. Um, Basically, try to innovate what could potentially be like tomorrow's Game Informer, right? From a
I love that.
collectability standpoint, because it has to be very novel. Because today's Game Informer's Twitter or fucking YouTube, right? Like you just go look
Oh,
shit
for
up
sure.
and that's how you find it. So, I'm also someone that's like heavy into streetwear and vape and all that, Murakami culture, all that stuff. So I was like, how do I bring this into gaming? And that's basically the challenge up to this point. Keeping it very limited in the beginning because you don't want it to be something that just anyone, you don't want to be begging people to take shit. You know what I mean? It's more
That's
like,
true.
hey, we're gonna do this, and if you want to mint it, you can mint it, and if you don't, you're probably gonna regret it eventually. Um, but that's up to us to basically decide by continuing to be consistent. So it's been a cool
I feel
experience so
that.
far, and I can't wait for the next like 10 issues that are coming out.
No, I love that. I like the creativity behind it too because that is what's missing in the space, man. It's not enough people taking the right creative risks and finding ways to like be super integratable in terms of like finding cool things that people could actually latch onto and gravitate to. So I think that's a great idea.
Hell yeah, man. I love it, man. I love the innovative part of it, right? Like creating that fandom on a high collectible, I think is something gamers relate to a lot. Like I've always said, gamers like having cool shit that they like to show off. Like you were saying, Bryce, with the badges, right? It's almost like the achievement that you used to collect back in the days, right? Like when you used
Facts.
to have this little badges for each achievement that you collected in Call of Duty, for example, you know? And I think that's like again, it's all about making these experiences relatable to the people that we're trying to create content for, which in our case is like mostly gamers. And these are all things that gamers relate to, you know? So I think building that sense of culture in a community is really important. But nonetheless, guys, this has been a great episode, man. Some great conversations. What are your guys' closing thoughts on Web3 gaming in general, right? What are you guys excited for as far as it's a year closing out and next year, Q1? Bryce, I'm going to start with you. What are you excited for the most?
I'm mostly excited for. There's a couple of games that I'm getting ready to like do some partnerships and work with on the Web3 side. A couple that I think that are going to be pretty interesting and big competitors in the space of like creating really cool experiences. So that kind of excites me. I think that games are getting better. I think that we're going to see some pretty cool releases next year, hopefully. And hopefully the games are learning on the fly because the real work happens after you release a game. And I feel like that's like gone under the radar way too much. But I mean, I'm optimistic about the space. I don't really give a fuck about the bull or bear market in terms of like how it affects gameplay because I don't think it affects it much. But ideally, I'm going to be stacking my tokens next year and working on some stuff on the low. I probably won't like say too much about it, but there are some token ecosystems I want to get into just to hold. So I'm bullish on the space as a whole, but very much like taking all of the knowledge that I've gained over the last couple of years and understanding that there's still a long way to go. and keeping my circle and my energy tight.
Hell yeah, dude. Let's go. What about you, Hado? What are your closing thoughts for this week?
Well, looking forward, I just want the filth to leave the space, meaning like a lot of these games that we've seen, in the past 2 years have not been made by gamers. They've been just made by people that are trying to make a quick buck off a token, and they just hire a team to like make a game. I want that to end, and I want people that are more passionate, like the Magis of the space, to like kind of grow and evolve the space. But ultimately, I want games to focus on experience, because at the end of the day, user experience is like what makes people come back to a game. And even a bad experience, because I'm using League of Legends as an example. Even with League, you have a lot of dopamine that you can get from League
Yeah.
each game that makes you want to come back and try again. So like maybe you didn't win, but you still had a good time regardless. And I really don't feel that when I play most of these Web3 games. There is no like sense of accomplishment or progression within a lot of these games. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is seeing games that deliver that progression. I think it's just a need for a lot of these games, but the overall experience needs to be better. And I think one thing that people have been, or games have been doing better, is getting people in the door. But I think Brycent made a great point, and you guys made a great point as well. Getting Web 2 in the door as well, that needs to be worked on. So maybe using content creators like a Ludwig or a Mizkif or an OTK, and hopefully, giving them the entirety of what it is from the get go, so people don't get blindsided by things.
Hell yeah, brother. Well said. Well said. Messi, do you have any closing thoughts for this week?
Yeah, I have some closing thoughts.
What's up,
Well,
brother?
one, it would be great to go into next year and actually have a fucking Web3 game I could play for more than 2 weeks. Number two, it would be nice if motherfuckers in the space were more original and stop creating the same fucking gameplay overview fucking video, and actually created content that serves the games and serves the community and isn't self-serving. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be selfless when you create content and when you create community to an extent. That's two. And number three, I hope that as people watch like the type of stuff that we're doing and the type of stuff that someone like Brycent's doing, they take inspiration and they start to really work harder and try new things and take risks and experiment, because I feel like a lot of the community and a lot of our space likes to blame these games for the lack of creativity. But ultimately, bro, a lot of people are just lazy and,
Facts.
try harder.
Yep. 100%, bro. 100. No, hey, that is straight up facts, and I couldn't agree more. I'm super bullish on all the takes that you guys are sharing here today, man. But Brycent, before we go, man, anything that you have coming up that you want the viewers to know or check out, let them know right now, brother. What do you have coming up this week, or like finishing up the year with?
Nothing too crazy. I mean, I make content. I'm live every day, Monday through Friday, 4 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. I am launching a new YouTube channel. Like, I've kind of like gotten deep down the rabbit hole and have realized like there's a big niche that's going. I think it'll be really popular in Web3 around like the horror game scene and also sandbox and how that plays into it. So I'm going to be starting a second channel that focuses solely on playing horror games and like different sandbox related experiences to like build more around that sandbox niche. So gonna have a second YouTube channel going up very soon and getting active there. But man, no, I appreciate you guys for having me on. It's been an honor, and I'm thankful to come back anytime.
Hell yeah, brother. We would love to have you on again for sure. And I love that you're going into the horror scene. I did check out that one video you put out, bro. I was cracking up. Definitely is not something I'm going to be doing, because I would not stop screaming. But bro, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate you. Like I said, you're welcome back anytime. I'm super down to do it again. But guys, this has been the Catalyst Effect Podcast, episode 9 with Brycent. We'll see you again next week on Friday. Until then, peace.
Cheers.
Peace. I appreciate you guys.